Hey everybody, I'm sitting here with Neil Welch. He's going to be the next guest on the Vermillion series, the Music Laboratory series at Vermillion. And that's going to be on June 16th. And he's going to have a group with Greg Campbell and Abbey Blackwell. Looking forward to hearing that and to hearing what he's up to. We're here to talk about it right now. So welcome, Neil.
Thanks, Christian. Hi, everybody. Really looking forward to playing on the 16th.
Yeah. So this is a new group, is that right?
It's a new group. So for a really long time, I've wanted to have like a working trio or a working quartet. I used to have one for several years, but it's been a long time. You know, it's been a bigger focus for me to have my small group duo or to have these large ensemble projects. And I really want to have a working group that can play my original music and can work in a creative group space where we're improvising together. And I want to kind of take the language that I've been working on and put it into a creative trio setting, which I think is a really captivating setting.
So when you say the language you've been working on, what I have an idea, but can you tell us more about what that means?
Yeah, so I've really been working on trying to get together a lot more of like melodic materials. I got my chord here, so I'm just gonna play.
Right on.
So, you know, sort of like sweeping melodic material. And it's like melodic material that uses multiphonics and other chord progressions that I'm kind of creating and sweeping sounds, but also a lot more kind of rhythmic varieties that I've previously had in my composition, exploring really like structured time, but then melodies that have rhythmic pulsations that move across the time in more unexpected ways. And in I don't know, kind of a roundabout way, I've been checking out a lot more Lenny Tristano and a lot more Lee Konitz than I ever have before. And that has kind of worked its way into some of my rhythmic kind of, like I said, pulsations or kind of rhythmic varieties that I've been interested in, kind of working to kind of phase some of that together along with melodic playing and along with some of the other techniques that I'm just normally doing, like multiphonics and kind of really wide leaping melodies. So a lot of kind of acrobatic kind of sounds. But I really want to put that into the context of this trio because Abbey Blackwell is such a killing bass player, but also just has this sensibility, this melodic sensibility that is always driving the music into new and unexpected directions. So I left the material flexible enough to be able to bring in a lot of her voice as a harmonic player and a melodic player and a rhythmic player and just a collaborator inside of it. And then of course Greg Campbell, who so many people know too, such an innovative percussionist and multi-instrumentalist, and I wanted to bring a lot of what he is capable of playing as an artist, you know, with a lot of metallic sounds, and you know, from metallic sounds to tuba to drum kit, playing you know, a lot of the different world music styles that he's been interested in, as well as his deep history in jazz music, to bring that into this setting too. So a lot of the music that we're playing, it's really rhythmic centered, and I'm calling it creative group space. I'm going away from improvisation as a word a little bit. I'm calling it creative group space.
Okay.
So that it has a lot of that space inside of it to be able to sculpt my pieces in a group setting.
Oh, I love it. So you, just in the last 2 minutes, you used the word melody a whole bunch of times.
Yeah.
I just want to point that out. It sounds like you're really focused on the melodic aspects of music with this project. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. A lot of the other music making that I've been doing for a long time now, especially with solo playing, has really been wrapped up in more abstract sound connections. Timbre.
Yeah.
Definitely rhythm, definitely long form pieces and thinking about sculpting, orchestrating, but melody, I wouldn't call it necessarily melodic, you know. What I'm really focusing on here is that melody is definitely at the core of what's happening here, or at least it's one of the key elements at the core of it. So, and it's melody kind of in my style, you know, so a lot of pieces that are using more angular structures. And then things that are using really tight-knit, tiny structures of like quarter steps and eighth steps and all the little inside tones between half steps. So I'm really exploring like extreme register jumps as well as really teeny tiny sounds in between the notes.
Wow.
But melody, lots of melody.
That sounds exciting, yeah. And I think you even said this exact, or in a very direct way, that you're taking the language that you've been working on, this timbral language, and making it more melodic. And that sounds, I think that about sums it up.
I think that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, that sounds super exciting. Because I've known you a long time. I know you've done a lot of different things. I know your language, or languages, I should say, like musical languages. And this sounds like a very exciting new step.
Yeah, it is an exciting new step. In some ways, it's interesting because I'm trying to create, as I said earlier, trying to create a group that is more collaboratively focused, but also driven by my own material. And I just have all these melodies that have been coming to me, and all these different sounds that I'm hearing with this ensemble. And so I'm really excited to now have at least what I hope is the beginning of a new working group that can play around town a lot more in flexible settings. So there's going to be lots of creative group space sounds that are going on here, but there's going to be elements of the blues. There's going to be elements of my never-ending fascination with Roscoe Mitchell's melodic inventiveness, and there's just going to be a lot of space where the collaborators come in and take charge of the direction of the music at times, and giving that autonomy to people too, or that sense of agency to the people within the ensemble. So right off the bat, I'm trying to have this new working group that is working in this collaborative way to push the music into new directions, even as we're tackling it for the first time.
So by working group, you mean you're thinking long term that this would be a group that would keep playing and evolving and co-creating, co-composing. I like this. What did you say?
Sure, yeah.
Group space, is that what you called it?
Yeah, creative group space.
Creative group space.
Yeah.
I like that. So I want to ask, how do you engender a creative group space? What do you do to create structures or spaces that allow people to contribute?
So, in the bulk of these pieces, with the exception of ones that have more traditional form, like I mentioned, there's a blues that's going to be on the set, a blues tune. The rest of the pieces are really rhythmically and melodically driven, but I left the harmonic side of it more open-ended. So I'm at least at the beginning here with these pieces, Abbey is going to be improvising almost all of the bass lines. And so in rehearsing and performing together, we're trying to come to some kind of consensus as to what direction those bass lines really should be taking, kind of in the spirit of the moment, and then what really works well overall, but giving that ability to be like a co-composer in that way, as opposed to writing out changes and asking for interpretation and making it feel like we're playing like head charts or something like that. I wanted to just leave the forms like way more open-ended harmonically like that. And then the same thing with the drum grooves, like in the creative group space, leaving the door open for time to just stop and go into explorations of timbre, but with an expectation that we're going to be thinking about the melodic material at all times, which will naturally lead us probably back more into either some sense of groove or some sense of melodic movement that has some kind of metered kind of movement to it. So trying to just kind of feel out what we're doing as co-composers in a way.
Is Henry Threadgill an influence in your thinking with this?
I love Henry Threadgill's work, but I didn't necessarily think about that with
because that's what it reminds me.
Yeah,
as you're describing
definitely.
it, there's aspects of it that are very similar. So
yeah,
okay.
I want to have at its core. I still want this to be what I would think of as jazz music. I am steering the ship more towards that, and
I was going to ask that.
Yeah, and I want it to be more like that, and I'm interested in that sensibility. So it's got references to things that are going to be familiar to a listener, but from historically. But it's also got, I think, a lot of reference to my own language that I'm trying to develop. So hopefully, people who might be into my music are still going to hear a lot of me in it, more kind of working in tandem with some more kind of traditional, like 4/4 time swing kind of feel and free bop kind of sounds and that type of thing. But lots of acrobatics of different sorts going on. Whether it's like working on the technical side of my instrument, or asking that, or you almost, I'll say, expecting it of Abbey and Greg too, for them to really be pushing me and pushing each other too. Abbey and Greg are such phenomenal players, and they're people I have played with for so long, but I've only had the chance to play in a small group trio, kind of free bop, but it's not quite necessarily like that, but this more jazz inflected kind of trio sound. I've only really done that with them a couple of times, and I think there's so much potential in this group to do some pretty extraordinary music making. I really do. And I think they're just some of the most talented players that are on the scene. So it's an honor for me to play with them, and I'm just really excited to just get going with this. So if you come to the gig on the 16th, this is kind of the first go at something that I hope will be a bigger focus for me.
Yeah.
We should thank Christian for doing the Vermillion series. Yeah, it's like a treasured thing. And plus, stick around and see Scrambler at the end of the night too, right?
Yeah. Scrambler's going to be there. I won't be there this time, actually. This is the first time that I'm having other people conduct Scrambler for the whole set. Connor Eisenmenger and Peter Tracy will be emceeing and running Scrambler this time. They're also going to do a duo set instead of tightrope for the first set.
Nice.
So I would say I'm looking forward to seeing that, but I won't. Yeah, so come to the Vermillion for the Music Laboratory series on Thursday, June 16th.
Yeah.
It starts at 7:30, and we'll have those three groups. So thanks for watching.
Thanks, everybody.